Other interesting political news, you have Vivek on college protests being arrested for the Palestine controversy. Now, this comes to us thanks to his ex-Twitter account. And before the video, Vivek says, quote, "A friend challenged me with a hard question. Why are you fine with arresting protesters who blocked college campuses while you praise the Canadian truckers who blockaded highways? Here's what I said." Now, thankfully, his voice is infinitely better than mine, so I'll go ahead and without too much further ado. And of course, like all good men, he did suit up. And very interesting thing, I know he's not technically in politics yet, but he has a very rare thing in politics. He has a American pin on his lapel, which is usually the Ukrainian flag or some other country's flag. Well, mostly. Without too much further ado.
Let me tell you about a hard question that I got over the weekend. A friend challenged me about my position on these campus protests, which I think are breaking the rule of law in many cases, and why my view here is different than my view on the Canadian truckers who disrupted traffic to protest COVID-19 policies a couple of years ago. And it was a good question. It goes to the heart of what we think about civil disobedience and the expression of opinions. Here's why I'm against what you're seeing at places like Columbia to UCLA. You're free to express your own opinion, but you're not free to break the law as you do it. We need to enforce the rule of law when other students cannot attend their classes. I do think it is an appropriate behavior once you've been warned, once you've been able to publicly express your opinion, no matter whether or not somebody else agrees with it. You got to express your opinion. You then have to actually respect the laws that allow other people to exercise their own freedoms. That's why I believe that universities like Ohio State and IU, Indiana, and Texas were in the right to actually forcibly remove and, when necessary, arrest students that stopped other students from being able to attend their classes and get the education that they have paid to actually get from those universities. But that still leaves the question of Canadian truckers who blocked highways in protest of COVID-19 policies and vaccine policies, to whom I've actually offered a lot of complimentary praise. So where's the distinction? That's a hard question, and I believe in addressing the hard questions rather than just reciting standard conservative talking points. So let's get to the heart of that. I think part of the reason I have first a different distinction is you have a different standing to protest and to engage in civil disobedience when you yourself are the person who's actually affected by it. It's a very convenient thing to do, to be able to appropriate somebody else's cause, especially from halfway around the world, as your own. But to then be able to actually supposedly exercise civil disobedience on somebody else's account. It's different when you're talking about Rosa Parks in the back of the bus, or whether you're talking about Canadian truckers who themselves are being forced personally to use a COVID-19 vaccine that they did not want to use, that they felt was being foisted upon them, that protested the lockdown policies that affected the way that those truckers themselves were being able to carry out their own work and live their own lives and make a living. That's, I think, a much more sympathetic case for civil disobedience, yes, disobedience, than in the case of vaguely doing it on behalf of somebody else's cause without actually having any personal skin in the game or consequence yourself. That's a personal reaction that I have, is more sympathetic in one case rather than the other. But here's the other distinction. It was the response of the police state to the Canadian truckers that really bothered me. If somebody's blocking a highway or somebody's blocking a college campus, I do think that law enforcement authorities are in the right to actually remove them from the areas they're blockading so that other people are able to continue freely living their lives. That is different from using backdoor mechanisms that shouldn't be used in that context. Debanking those Canadian truckers, I think I had a major problem with that. And I think I would have an equal problem if these protesters, even on the grounds of Columbia or UCLA or elsewhere, were debanked, were unable to access the dollars in their bank accounts or had those dollars in their bank account wiped clean. The inability to participate in credit card transactions. That's a punishment of the wrong kind. It doesn't relate to the actual act of civil disobedience itself. Arresting them and removing them from a campus so that somebody else is able to go to their class, that is an action of the right kind. But you can't use backdoor mechanisms that weaponize supposedly neutral terrain, like our financial system, to do it. So that's my answer. Two reasons why is the Canadian truckers were directly affected themselves. And even though police would have been in the right to remove them physically from those highways, they were in the wrong to use the surveillance state and the weaponization of the financial system to penalize them through the back door. I think that's the principled answer, and especially in challenging moments, we got to check ourselves to say, if we're free speech absolutists, how do we actually feel when the same shoe fits the other foot? I'm glad my friend challenged me, and I think it's important that we look ourselves in the mirror and answer why we actually adopt the policies that we do.
Now, interesting enough, went viral, but
Let me tell you about a hard question.
I don't know why. Oh, in IT, the funny joke is it's not a bug, it's a feature. I'm not sure why Twitter automatically, or X, whatever you want to call it, automatically replays a video immediately after you view it. Now, it got a lot of views. It got 1 million views. That's pretty darn good for Vivek. He usually gets between 400,000, 700,000 views, kind of good ballpark average on social media. But, I mean, in this case, it only got, 1 million views, but it only got 15,000 likes. So definitely not the best. Now, some of the first top comments come from Valentina Gomez saying, quote, "The truckers are being forced to an experimental drug and in their bank accounts were frozen. These are just indoctrinated rich college students with no purpose. Arrest these terrorists and send them to Palestine." I'm quoting 448 likes. The Zalik Zolsan says that Canadians were protesting for their livelihood. There's a difference, getting 372 likes. Logical Fallacies says, quote, "What a shame that Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis received more votes than Vivek. I don't think there's any politician on the market that can explain complex situations in a manner that could be understood by many," unquote. And 455 likes. DF says, "Simple, clear, direct. This should have been your president," getting 258 likes, which is one of the very few political figures, if you can call him as, and he did go for Republican nominees. I think you could consider him a political figure, he hasn't served office yet in a capacity. But yeah, he's one of the few articulate folks you see. Now, James Jeanette says, "No one else addresses hard questions directly the way Vivek does. We need more of this in politics," getting 331 likes. Let's see, a couple more here. Bowtied Redactory says, campus protesters are communists, truckers are not. This isn't hard. Treat each group according to their standards. College protesters would line us up, blindfold us, and mow us down. Truckers just want to be left alone," getting 27 likes. And a lot of these college campuses are getting more and more violent, actually causing property damage as well. Although we did find another contrarian statement. You have Ukrainian flag machine pun Kelly says, I describes himself as I block stupid people. Again, if you click the subscribe button, it could perhaps fix my speaking ineptitudes. Just a theory I have. Can't help think. I can't hurt to try. Now, I don't know if to me this is actually a negative thing. He's actually followed by Mark Hamill, which is someone who's extremely mentally vacuous, to say the least. Now, he simply said, "You're a sopping troll," but 13 people did like that. Another contrarian statement there. Here. Election Watch 24 says, "One is also standing up against tyranny. The other is supporting a known terrorist group." Big difference. Like, we're getting 5 likes. Here. News Nomad says, quote, "A principled answer. Thank you for your perspective on this." Getting 9 likes as well. So it looks like a couple contrarian statements to be sure, but overwhelming positive feedback for Vivek. But interestingly enough, again, not the most likes he's got, though, again, a lot of views. And yeah, anyone has the right to actually, go to Hobby Lobby, get some nice card stock, and a little poster board, and protest peacefully. But again, once you start getting violence, not only is that illegal, but you also lose a lot of support for your cause, whatever your cause may be. The public doesn't like that. And I can't but think we're probably going to continue to see this trend, and it'll be interesting to see, how many of these colleges actually crack down on all these protests, and will it get more violent, or will this just peter out in a couple of weeks? How long will this stay in our minds and in politics? Let me know if you're in your college campus, if you've seen something like this. I mean, as always, I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So, again, if you could click that button and like, subscribe, and comment, it would greatly appreciate it. Also, let me know, do you want me to put the video in a different part of the screen? Always open to more feedback. That's something else to kind of thinking about the past couple of days. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.